Hello, happy to have you here with me cooking up a super delicious saffron salmon stew. Along the video, I'll be doing some crafting and baking the most incredible saffron buns I have ever made. So stay tuned. I am making the base of the stew using charlotte onions, tomato paste and garlic. I always mix the saffron with some alcohol to really bring out the flavor, although any liquid will do. I am using white cooking wine, and I'm getting all the last bits with some cream. I'm adding cherry tomatoes, salt, white pepper and chili powder to add some sting. And to add acidity and sweetness to the stew, I use some zest and juice of an orange and some lemon juice. I then add bite-sized pieces of the salmon, and it does cook very fast, 10 minutes maximum, so add the salmon at the very end and once all the flavors are combined. You don't want dry salmon. I think I used a fish bouillon cube off cam as well as fresh spinach. Serve it with rice or potatoes. It's super delicious. I make this every year. It's my favorite. You're probably wondering what the heck I am doing with these oranges, or perhaps this is very familiar to you. This is an old classic where you put cloves into oranges and tie them with a red silk band. You can make them very pretty with intricate designs, but I'm keeping it quite simple with jute twine and a few with cloves, some without. Putting cloves in oranges like this is not only a fabulous Christmas scent and decoration, but it also makes them last longer. I am also tying cinnamon sticks, star anise, and small Christmas baubles to make them pretty. Usually the oranges are much bigger and more orange and round, but they are not quite in season yet here in our grocery stores in Sweden. So this would have to do. Quite hard to tie these oval shapes, but I managed. I think they turn out very cute. It's the first of Advent and we are celebrating it lighting the first Advent candle, drinking some glögg or mulled wine as we say in English, and making gingerbread houses. Eric grew up in Italy and apparently this is not very common there, so he had never assembled a ginger house before. I bought this tiny village, but to my disappointment, they already had pre-made guidelines that you can't really ignore and do something else, but in the end it was for the best because the icing wasn't the best quality, it was hard to keep a good consistency and impossible to do thin lines. So we made one each and one together. I would love to one day make my own gingerbread house from scratch and make it super extravagant with lots of beautiful icing details, glassed windows with a battery-powered candle inside. I just think they look so magical. I used to have a whole shelf dedicated to a snow village with fake snow and small houses and figurines, and I played with it all Christmas long. I just love miniature stuff. Alright, so let's make these incredible saffron buns. I am starting off by adding 50 grams of yeast into a bowl and then I measure out 150 grams of butter to warm up in the microwave. I need soft butter for the filling, so I'm cutting out what I need now so that it can get to room temperature. Here I have the warm butter. I will use this as the liquid for the saffron and I am using 2 packages. And in Sweden at least they are half a gram each. Into the same bowl I am adding 5 deciliters of milk. This will cool down the liquid, so I had to heat it back up in the microwave to reach 37 degrees Celsius. It's important for the liquid to be 37 degrees Celsius to activate the yeast. You don't want it hot either, that will kill it. So I add some of the liquid just to dissolve the yeast before I add the rest. Once dissolved and all the liquid is in the bowl, I added 1.5 deciliter of sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. I then proceed to add 250 grams of something in Sweden that we call kvarg, which I guess is quark in English. I am not sure if you use this a lot where you live. But I think you can substitute this for sour cream or something similar. Now it's time to add the flour, which is a lot. I ended up adding 16.5 deciliters, which equals around 1,000 grams, but it's better if you do the math. I use the other half of the deciliter to flour the surface with. If you have a KitchenAid, you're lucky. Knead it for 5 minutes. If you don't, then get that arm and shoulder muscle to work for at least 10 minutes. Lightly flour the surface and cover with a towel. Let it rise for 30 minutes. I will be dividing the dough into two, making one half with vanilla and the other half almond. They both start off with softened butter and a little bit of sugar and vanilla powder. I roll out the dough in a rectangle. The butter wasn't soft enough, so this half was pretty hard to spread. It's important to spread it evenly so you get that yummy vanilla flavor in every bite. On the second half, the butter was just soft enough. Fold the dough in half and press it lightly with your hands. I used a pizza cutter to cut strips and then cut each strip in half, leaving one edge intact, kind of like the look of trousers. You will then twist the two legs together and then make a knot. And that is the shape of the bun. I will show you here soon. I am doing the exact same thing on the other dough, except that I had almond paste inside this one. I allowed the buns to rise for another 30 minutes on the tray with a towel on before putting on an egg wash. I'm actually baking this for this Sunday's Advent. I have invited family and some of them are allergic to nuts. That is why I am doing all the steps first with the vanilla buns, so it doesn't get contaminated with the almonds. For easier distinction between them two, I am adding pearl sugar on top of the vanilla buns. I was going to add slivered almonds for the other buns, but I forgot to buy it, but I think they turn out well. You can really see the shape and the filling on those ones. Since I made my buns a bit bigger to be able to fit all of them on 2 trays, I had to bake them a little bit longer than what the recipe stated. I ended up baking them for 10 to 12 minutes on 250 degrees Celsius, but if you make them smaller, bake them for 8 minutes. Allow them to cool down on a drying rack with a towel on top. Next up on the baking schedule is this soft gingerbread banana cake. I don't even know what to call it. I took a regular banana cake recipe and added gingerbread spices to it. Easy as that. I am making my own spice mix using 1 teaspoon of ginger, clove, cardamom and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Mash up 2 ripe bananas, very important that they are ripe, preferably brown on the outside. Butter and crumb the cake form. To the bowl I am adding 1.5 deciliters of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of milk, 75 grams of melted butter, vanilla powder, 2 egg yolks and the mashed bananas.
Nova, jag förstår inte.
In another bowl I am mixing the dry ingredients, 2.5 deciliter flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder or bicarbonate soda, along with the gingerbread spices. Add the dry ingredients to the wet and fold it in. I decorated the top of the cake with 2 banana halves and dribbled some maple syrup on them so that they'll caramelize in the oven. I baked it on 175 degrees Celsius for about 50 minutes. A side note, the recipe called for an oblong cake tin, which I think would make it look prettier with the bananas on top, but I used mine this spring as trays for some seedlings and now I can't find them, so hence why I'm using this one. Celebrating Advent with family members like this was so cozy. I served mulled wine with my baked goods. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I love making these Christmassy videos, and in the next one we're going to be decorating the Christmas tree. Since it's the first Christmas here at the house, I am super excited to see how it will look. Thank you for hanging out with me. Take care. Bye bye.